I love your home already, and I haven't even seen it. Does that sound crazy? It's not. When we improve our surroundings, we simultaneously empower ourselves, which means every inch of space within your reach right now is an opportunity to tell the story you want to be living. Tell me that's not its own kind of wonderful. I have spent the last 15 years consulting clients and their homes through the wisdom of feng shui, intentional design, and some crystal clear communication. And you know what happens when you bring those three together? Life-changing magic. Your home is already in a conversation with you, so why not learn how to merge that awareness with some simple, straightforward, and smart action to co-create the life you want? I'm Amanda Gibby Peters, and I am here to help you learn how. Welcome to House Therapy. So if you start a discussion about decluttering, it is usually going to generate some hullabaloo. For some people, clearing clutter is almost religious. Their commitment and reverence for the tidiest of spaces is unrivaled. And for others, they prefer all their stuff and they don't want anything to do with the less is more belief system. Everyone else falls somewhere in the middle. So personally, I relish order and its composition with a heft of visual detail, please. So I'm definitely a middler. And being here has taught me this, that when we clear clutter without intention, without a little dose of love, it can be an inflammatory endeavor. So my strategy tends to be more editorial, as in, let's look for what's working well in a space, what's playing in your favor, and strengthen that by eliminating any unnecessary noise. You've likely heard me say that feng shui observes that everything's energy and everything is connected, which means this: every single thing in our surroundings, every single thing we own carries an energy that is either documenting or disrupting our enthusiasm. So, with spring almost in the air, or at least it is at the time of this recording, we're going to spend this episode and next week's going over a few of what I call my field notes on managing, clearing, and really learning to discern clutter so that you have a plan for it before you romp into yours. So, the first thing I want to say is clutter, even if when it is dressed differently. So I often say it's not just the junk drawer or the closet that no one wants you to open. I have seen just as much pretty clutter as I have the hoarding kind. So are you wondering what pretty clutter is? It's all of those things that we tend to hold on to because of perceived cost, because of labels, maybe approval from friends or encouragement from trend setters and style makers. But the deciding factor deserves to be, always ought to be, is you. Do you love it? So a quick story. I had a client years and years ago who'd gone through a nasty divorce. And at the time we met, she'd been living in a new home in a fabulous location. She was in this thriving relationship and she was really loving her work. So, of course, I asked, well, what are we working on today after she'd just given me this glowing life review? Well, my partner and I have talked about marriage, but he never seems to take the next step, and I can't figure out why. So I wanted you to look around my space and see if you could find anything that could possibly be getting in the way. So we walked her house with the intention of removing any possible splinters that could be interfering with this next step. And when we went out to the garage, I noticed there was this row of boxes that were about waist high, and they were all along one wall. And they came out far enough that she couldn't pull the car in. And I could tell that they hadn't been opened in a really long while because there was a little bit of uniformity to them. They all looked like they were the same box. There was a light layer of dust on them. they were giving me we were all boxed at the same time vibe. So I was curious what was in them. And she told me they were a specific type of dinnerware plate that was really popular in the South and was worth thousands and thousands of dollars. Okay, so why do we have these thousands and thousands of dollars sitting out here in the garage? She told me that they were from her first marriage and that she really didn't want anything to do with them, but that she knew she could sell them and make some money. So I followed up with, well, how long have you been planning to sell them? And she said, since the divorce. Okay, well, how long has that been? And she told me that we were just coming around the 2-year bend. So you're holding on to these plates from your first marriage. They're sitting in the garage, so they're not in your house reminding you of the divorce. And she confirmed. And so this would be a good time to mention and remind everyone that you can't hide anything in feng shui. Like you can tuck things in a pretty box, or you can put it high on a shelf or store it out in the garage. But if the chi is heavy, if it is just drenched in a feeling of, let's say, unhappiness, there is no amount of pretty box or no amount of hiding or out of the way strategy that is going to necessarily revive that energy so that it gets back to good. Okay. So here she was with money on her mind. That was why she was holding on to this dinnerware collection. But I pulled out the Bagua map and I showed her where the garage resided within her layout, and it was in the helpful people and travel area of her home. A little note that some people are not always aware of: every part of your home is also associated with a member of the family's energy. And helpful people resonates with and represents the male head of household energy. And listen, that interpretation is left open to whatever makes sense for the homeowner of the house. In this situation, it really had me thinking, how could her new beau feel totally and completely at home with her when her ex was literally hanging out in the space that identifies with this man of the house energy? So I shared this with her, and a week later, the boxes were gone. A month later, she was engaged, and a year later, she was married. So when I say clutter is clutter is clutter, even the pretty clutter matters. Okay. Now, another field note of mine is clutter is really insidious. It is absolutely infiltrating other parts of your life. And I find that until we make clutter a priority, it impacts our priorities. What? Why? How? Well, you know that subconscious of yours is always taking inventory of what is happening around you. So even if you think the clutter stored in your space is not bothering you, but you seem to always have it on some perpetual to-do list, like, oh, I'm going to clear the garage this weekend, and that task has been on the list for years, there is a mental energy you're spending every day on that task. And it is keeping tabs. Your subconscious is keeping tabs on what is not getting done, which means really, at the end of it, you're not working with the fullest capacity of you possible. So my little hack: clear a space or pare it down to the essentials and leave it bare for at least 9 days. Now, 9 is that magic number in Shui that's associated with manifestation completion. It's a yang number, so it has a lot of energy, and feng shui practitioners like myself tend to pair it with different remedies and rituals. However, at least 9 days works. You can go overish if you want. Just don't forget what you're doing, okay? So when you have everything bare, I want you to sort of Sherlock this. Pay attention to any unexpected changes or coincidences that occur. And then when those 9-ish days are over, be specific about what you really missed. That's what goes back first. Remember, you are authoring your own story. So choose the things that support where you want to go, who you want to become. And once you start to see and feel how congestive the clutter is, you're going to connect the dots to how it's affecting and impacting your life. And I find that when clients make this connection, there's a clarity that shows up that really delivers this unrivaled permission to decide what stays and what's just got to go. Finally, and oh Lordy, is this one true? Organization is not the same as getting rid of clutter. I know the two seem really collaborative, but it has been my experience that we really sabotage our energy and our effort if we try to do them both at once because, hear me, organized clutter is still clutter. Just like the pretties or the pretty boxes, you can take an unpaid bill. And even if you tuck that sucker in a really pretty envelope, you still owe the balance, right? The same goes for clutter. It still holds, resonates, ripples out its energy. So whether it's organized or out of sight, clutter is affecting your home. It's affecting your life. So you want to clear the stuff first and then organize what you've decided deserves to stay in your life. So, how do you decide what gets a hall pass and what needs a new home? Well, next week, I'm going to share with you my favorite questions to help make that process as entanglement free as possible. And that's our episode, my loves. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to head over to simpleshui.com if you're craving a bigger serving of house love. And if you like what you're hearing, I hope you follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you love what you're learning, will you leave me a review? Your note will totally make my day and help even more people find the show. Have a fabulous day, and I can't wait to meet you back here next week.